Hello, welcome to my video. This is part 2, or part 1 I guess, of a series. I just created a video where I built this front end. And this is nothing special. This is just a really simple tutorial on how to upload an image to S3 from React. So my previous video, I showed you how to get the image from the user's computer and send it to your backend. This video, I'm creating the backend endpoint in Node and Express, where we receive from the front end that form data with the image in it, and then we're going to send it up to S3, and then from there you can update your database and all that stuff. So our Node, this is a really simple version just to kind of show it, but we have our endpoint where app.post, anything that comes into API/upload image is going to fire off this image controller.upload image to S3, which is this function here. And the few things that you want to do, you want to get the image uploaded to S3, and then whatever the download URL is for that image, you probably want to store it in your database somewhere. So you're probably going to update some info there, and then you send a response to the front end, and we can just send them the download URL again. So that is the goal. We are going to use, since we're using form data, we're using Multer, and since we're using S3, we're using Multer S3. So you want to npm install Multer S3 as well as these other libraries. So we're going to use Aws Sdk, Express, Multer, Multer S3, and let me find this. We're also going to use this UUID. S3 is going to make you have a unique name for each image, and I can show you why. The download URL is honestly, so this is the name for this image, this is the name for this image. If you click into here, all of the download URLs are the exact same except for that name. So you have to have a unique name. So your download URL is always going to be this, and then right here is your region. Mine is US West 2. And then this is all the same, and then this is your bucket. My bucket is named Images Dev 2019. And then this is the file name. So because it's enforcing a unique file name, this library just generates a unique identifier, a UUID, and we're going to use that for our file name. So npm I all of those packages, and then this is the basic tutorial we're going to follow. So we already have index.js set up our Express application, so we don't need that here, but we are going to do aws.config.update, and we have this is where you update the configuration for the AWS SDK. If you've never used an SDK, it's just like any other NPM library. It basically, you use that instead of an API. It just does all the API calls for you. So we need to tell it what our credentials are for the API or for the SDK. This takes in an object, and it wants like your secret access key, things like that. I have all that stored in my config. I have it down here so it's off screen, but basically you have your secret access key, your access key ID, and your region, and I store that in this AWS config object so that I can simply pass that in. So I'm also going to import config equals require config. Okay, so that gets that object out of my config and updates my credentials with it. That allows the SDK to work. Without that, you're going to get access denied every time you try and use the SDK. You actually probably wouldn't even get that. It doesn't know. There's a million S3 users out there, and if you just say send this image to S3, it doesn't know what you're talking about. So your credentials tell it where to go, basically, and well, we are going to tell it the bucket name of where to go, so I guess you would get access denied. Anyways, put your credentials in there, and then S3, I'm just going to do const for all these because they're not going to change. Okay, const S3 equals new aws.s3, and we're just going to do that. Okay, so we have S3 ready to go, our S3 SDK. var upload equals Multer. Okay, so Molter is a library that it's like middleware, right? It takes in the form data, and that's what our front end is sending across, and it basically parses it for you and gets it ready to use, so you don't have to worry about parsing it. The one thing that you need to tell it what to do is storage. It says this is where, once you've parsed that data, here's where you put it. And we're not storing it anywhere locally, we're storing it in S3. So that's why we're going to use another library, Molter S3, that basically says once you parsed it, send it to S3. So S3 with the S6, we can just do that, whatever you want. Bucket name, my bucket. So if you have never used S3 and you are doing this as a tutorial, I have another great video. I'll put a link in the description if I remember. I should. Anyways, it's a tutorial for, it's like 4 or 5 minutes. It shows you how to set up your profile and how to set up sub profiles on your account. That way, if for whatever reason you accidentally put this stuff on GitHub or somebody gets a hold of it, you don't have to delete your whole account. You can just delete that sub user, and people don't have root access to your account. You never use your root access credentials. Anyways, I'll put a link in the description where you can go figure out how to set this stuff up. Really easy. It's free to sign up. You go to aws.amazon.com/console, hit create a free account. It's going to make you put in your credit card, but it doesn't charge you anything unless you start using it a bunch. So create a free account, get signed in, and then if you go to services, once you log into the console, and you can search up here for whatever you want, or if you search for S3, there it is. Anything you've used recently shows up over here. And these are the different buckets. A bucket is just a place that stuff's being stored. I created this bucket for this tutorial called images-dev-2019. I think it makes you have a unique bucket name across the world. So you might have to put some random string or numbers in there. Anyways, your bucket just stores stuff. So these are all the images that I've put in here. Let's delete them all so I can show you. Yeah. Okay, bucket's empty. When you create a new bucket, this is what it's going to look like. Your bucket name, I got off on a tangent there. Images-dev-2019. Bucket name, images-dev-2019. Metadata, I don't know, I just copied from the tutorial. The key, I shouldn't have deleted them all yet. The file name, that's what that is. It's going to store that as a unique thing. So the tutorial is just using a date for simplicity, but we are going to not do that. We are going to tell it what the file name should be. We're going to determine that beforehand so that we know what it is, so we can update our database, send it back to the user, all that stuff. So I'm just gonna say this is gonna come in. I'm gonna stick it on the rec, and that's where you'll find it. So that is the upload, and then we're gonna create this const single file upload. And it is equal to upload.singleImage. Now there are ways to do to upload multiple things at a time. With the way that I have it set up, each Axios request is going to be one image. So my front end, if it has 7 images, it's going to send 7 Axios requests. So each one is going to have, we're going to do a single file upload. Okay, upload to S3. Let's create a function called upload to S3, and we will call that here upload to S3. We're going to pass in rec and res, and then it is going to give us back a download URL. So this takes in rec and res, and if there's any errors, let's log them. Once we get the download URL, you maybe you're going to do some kind of db.update, and maybe you tell it what table you're going to. This is the users table. You pass in some kind of user ID and the profile thumbnail URL or something. is going to now be whatever we get back from this. So we're going to upload it to S3. It's going to give us a download URL, and then we're going to update the database, and then we'll basically send back our download URL. Now, in my case, I actually don't have a database hooked up, so this is going to error out. So I am just going to send that and skip this, but that's probably the flow that you would see. So that's it. I'm going to upload to S3 and then send back the download URL to the front end. And how does it upload to S3? So this is the library that we're using. It uses a callback. I don't like callbacks, so I'm going to wrap it in a promise. Oh, and it doesn't even have the, well, I'll just show you. We're going to return a new promise. And if you're not sure about how promises work and you want to just use callbacks, that's okay. Honestly, you could copy this upload to S3 function and just use it, anywhere in here that you need to use it. Once the function's set up, it's ready to use anywhere. So we're going to return this single file upload, which takes in the rec and the res, and has this callback function. If there's an error, we reject error. Otherwise, we will resolve the download URL. So we need to create a download URL. And the download URL is always going to be the same. And I deleted those. Let me just grab one from my... This guy has one. Just for simplicity's sake. This is the pattern that the download URL in S3 is always going to have. This is going to be your region. aws-config.region. And this is the file name, which we are storing on rec.s3 key. So we will send back the download URL. So reject basically says that that's what's going to end up in the .catch of a promise, and resolve is what's going to end up in the .then of the promise. So we're going to upload it to S3, and then that'll have the promise. So this is it. Let me take out the stuff we're not using. So you can see how simple everything is here. We're setting up our library, we're using it, and then we're using that function here. So let's see if this works. I'm just going to do this, and this is where we have Node running. Okay, let's run it. Let's select an image. Let's upload to Kitty. Upload images. And let's see. Missing required key in params. Okay. I know what's wrong. We're talking about this rec.s3 key everywhere, but we're never setting it. So rec.s3 key equals UUID. And that is this library that we're using. That's going to generate a random name for us for the file name. Okay, let's try that again. Upload images. Maybe. Oh, and it worked. There's our download URL. And if we come over to S3 and refresh, it is... There they are. It has put them in the bucket. So that's it for the tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and thanks for watching.